Hi lovely people, and welcome to Little Moments, Big Shifts, the podcast that empowers you to prioritise yourself and evolve into the person you were always meant to be. I'm your host, Emma Longbottom, founder of Wellbeing with Emma. Welcome. Let's get into today's episode. Hi my lovelies, and welcome to this week's episode. I'm really glad that you're back here with me. So what I thought we would explore this week is the Spring Equinox. So on Friday, I'm just checking on my calendar that it is Friday. Yeah, Friday the 20th. That's right, Friday the 20th of March we have the Spring Equinox. And I think if you've been listening for a while, I like to sort of think about these little celebrations, these little milestones in the year, because it's just a little opportunity for us to take our cue from nature. So rather than us looking at the calendar, which I know I just did, but that was because I was trying to tell you the date, rather than us worrying about the calendar, which is kind of a made up numbers, isn't it really? Looking at what nature is sort of telling us, what nature is doing, and living our line in alignment with that. And that is how we historically would have lived, but because we live behind walls and glass and we have central heating and running water, etc. in our homes, we kind of got a little bit out of touch with these things. So anyway, the Spring Equinox marks the official start of spring, and it's also the time when we start to get more daylight hours than we do nighttime hours. So during the winter, obviously the nighttime is longer than the daytime, but the Spring Equinox is the time when that changes. So the good news is, my lovelies, that from this Friday, the day will be longer than the night. So we are getting gradually more and more daylight hours, which is wonderful. And we're also starting to see things like the blossom coming on the trees, and there's crocuses and daffodils around. So you can see that nature is just starting to wake up, starting to bloom, starting to flourish. And this is a really lovely opportunity for us to think the same. So what do you want to let go of? So that's what nature spent all winter doing, isn't it? Letting go of stuff. And if you look around, there's still a little bit of that going on. I know with my houseplants particularly, there's been quite a lot of shedding of leaves the last few weeks, and it's just like they're letting go of those final bits that they don't need before they start to bloom and get the new growth of spring. So it's a really nice opportunity for us to think about, like, what are we ready to let go of to make room to bloom and blossom and create new things? What do we, in this like more fertile, sunshine filled, lighter, warmer, as we start to get into those days, what do we want to plant? So not just a physical seed, and you might want to go out in your garden and plant some seeds, and that's lovely. But what do you want to plant personally that you want to grow? What are you going to nurture? What are those things that you want to grow in your life? Is there another thing that might be, and I'm going to I should have said this before I started talking, I'm going to put some little journal prompts in the show notes that you can use. I'm talking around them now, but I'll put some actual journal prompts as well in the show notes that you can maybe reflect on when you've got a bit of time. So another thing to think about is, where do you need a spring clean? So that might be in your house. You might want to clean out your cupboards. You might want to have a bit of a declutter, and amazing. I've mentioned before that that's so good. It clears out energy that you don't need. It helps your mind be clearer. But it might not be something physical that you want to spring clean. It might be an area of your life. It might be setting a boundary. It might be an intrusive thought that keeps coming up, and you're like, do you know what, I've had enough of that. I'm having a little spring clean in my thoughts, and I'm not accepting that one anymore. So it could be something like that, or it could be an action, not an action, but maybe a habit that you've got into that you're like ready to let go of, and you're like, right, I'm spring cleaning that out of my life. Another thing that's lovely to think about is, because the equinox literally translates as like the balance, so the equanimity of light and dark. So we have a spring equinox, we have an autumn equinox, which are the times when we get to that balance of light and dark, and then beyond the spring equinox, the light is greater than the darkness. So it's a nice time to think about where in our life we are in or out of balance. You know, is there somewhere that you're seeking more balance, more harmony? And what does that look like for you? What are you trying to bring in? And then another thing, the final thing that I wanted to say, and I think this is a really lovely thing to think about at this time of year, is where you can bring more of that spring energy into your daily routine. So when I think about spring energy, I think about like the lambs. You know, when you get the baby lambs and they've got the most amazing spring energy, and if you can't think what I mean, maybe Google it and have a little look, but they leap around with such joy and delight and just wonder at the world. Or like little baby bunny rabbits when they're running around and hopping really. So that's what I think of as spring energy, like that joy, that delight, that sort of feeling that everything's just going to be good. Where can you bring more of that into your daily routine, or where do you want to bring more of that into your daily routine? What would that look like for you? So yeah, those are the things I wanted to mention, and I'm going to put, as I mentioned, I'm going to put some general prompts in the show notes for you to have a little think about what those little tweaks that you might want to make, and use this as a little touch point as the energy starts to build and we start to get more light and we start to come into the season of abundance and just more colour and more there's a word that's on the tip of my tongue that I can't quite find, so apologies. That's why I'm pausing, because I know there's a really beautiful word, but it's just, you know, there's that brightness, isn't there, at this time of year as things start to bloom and flourish. So think about how that might resonate with your life and where you maybe can build more of that in. And I'm also I'm just about to do this actually. I'm just going to record also a spring equinox yoga nidra that you can listen to engage and just connect to those energies a little bit more. So I will also add a link to that in the show notes, along with the journal prompts that you might want to just have a few minutes just reflecting on, just to think about this little milestone in the year and what it might mean to you in your life. And that's a really lovely way of giving you some lovely ways that you see for you to prioritise yourself this week, so you don't even need to think of your own. Okay, my lovelies, I shall see you next week.